I spent $19,000 on my son's wedding. I paid every single penny for that reception, and right there during the celebration, he took the microphone and said, "I want to thank my real mother." He pointed at his mother-in-law. I froze, sitting still as every eye turned toward me. And in that moment, I decided to do something my son would never forget. My name is Angela. I am 70 years old. For 45 years, I was the only mother Daniel, my son, ever knew. I adopted him when he was 5, after his biological parents died in an accident. Back then, he was a shy, frightened little boy who cried every night calling for his dead mother. I was a single 25-year-old woman who took him in with open arms. I worked 2 shifts in a textile factory just to support him. I gave up my youth, my dreams, and any chance of having a family of my own, all for him. I gave him unconditional love, private schooling, vacations I could never afford for myself as a child. Daniel grew up sheltered, never lacking a thing. I sacrificed everything to raise that boy, and now he publicly scorned me. When he turned 18, I told him the truth about his adoption. His reaction was cold, distant. I already knew. "I always knew you weren't my real mother." Those words cut me like knives, but I still believed time would heal us. I was completely wrong. 3 years ago, Daniel met Barbara, a sharp, calculating woman who, from the first day, saw me as an obstacle. She came from a wealthy family. Her mother, Monica, had property, influence, and connections. Compared to them, I was just an old retiree living off a modest pension in a small apartment. To Barbara, I was an embarrassment to be hidden. She began whispering poison in Daniel's ear. "Your adoptive mother meddles too much. My mother would never interfere in our affairs." Daniel started to change. His visits became rare, his phone calls shorter, his tone colder. But when he announced his wedding, I was ready to give him everything one more time. One afternoon, Daniel came to my house, sitting on my couch like a stranger. "I need you to help with the wedding. Barbara's parents have contributed, but we want a bigger venue." I asked how much. $9,000, he said without blinking. That was nearly all the money I had saved my entire life for medical emergencies, for funeral expenses, so I wouldn't be a burden to anyone. "That's a lot, Daniel," I whispered. His answer chilled me to the bone. "If you really loved me, you wouldn't hesitate." That night I couldn't sleep. $9,000 was the sum of 45 years of sacrifice, of working myself to exhaustion, of denying small joys to save every cent. But it was my son's wedding. I told myself, maybe after this, he'll finally remember everything I did for him. The next day, I withdrew my entire savings and handed it to him. No conditions, no reproach. He accepted the check as if it were the most natural thing in the world, as if I owed him even more. He didn't even say thank you. He just said, "Barbara will be so happy." The following months of preparation turned into hell. I was treated like a hired help. Barbara decided everything: the menu, the flowers, the music, even where I could sit. "This is my wedding, not yours," she snapped whenever I offered a suggestion. Daniel stayed silent, letting her humiliate me again and again. One time, I suggested inviting a few of my close friends from the factory. Barbara looked at me with disdain. "We don't want this wedding to look cheap." Daniel nodded in agreement. My lifelong friends weren't good enough for the wedding I was paying for. On the wedding day, I arrived early, wearing a coral dress I had bought just for the occasion. I wanted to look dignified for my son. But when Daniel saw me, he frowned. "Don't you have something more discreet? Don't draw too much attention," as if my presence itself was a burden. The ceremony was beautiful. I cried watching the little boy I once held in my arms now grown into a man starting his own family. Naively, I thought maybe after the wedding things would improve between us. But I was wrong. During the thank you speech, Daniel took the microphone, smiled, and said, "I want to thank my real mother, Mrs. Monica, for welcoming me with such love." He pointed at his mother-in-law. The hall erupted in applause. I sat there, in my coral dress, my heart shattering. I kept smiling, but inside, something broke forever. Monica walked over, her voice sweet but false. "Angela, it was such a beautiful ceremony. Thank you for everything you did for Daniel when he was little. Now we'll take care of him." Each word was like a slap. When he was little, as if my role had ended long ago, as if 45 years of motherhood meant nothing. Barbara came too, bragging that her mother was gifting them a 3-week honeymoon in Europe. I sat there, watching the son I had spent $19,000 on for his wedding now rejoicing over someone else's gift, while I was left with an empty bank account and a broken heart. Near midnight, I quietly left the party. I told Daniel, "I'm leaving now, son. It was a beautiful wedding." He barely looked up from his conversation with Barbara's friends. "Yeah, thanks for coming," as if I were just another guest. On my way out, Barbara stopped me with a cold smile. "Angela, we're planning to buy a house after the honeymoon. We know you must have more savings." I froze. I just used everything for this wedding. "Come on," she shrugged. "A woman your age doesn't need that much money. Think of it as an investment in Daniel's future." Then she walked away, leaving me trembling in the grand hall. I drove my 15-year-old car back to my small apartment. 45 years of love, now reduced to a night of humiliation. I sat on the couch, still, in my coral dress, looking around the room filled with memories. Daniel's photos from age 5 to his college graduation, his room preserved just the way it was, the birthday gifts he never used, but I had kept with care. All of it now felt like a cruel joke. The next day, Daniel called from the airport. "Just wanted to let you know we're heading off on our honeymoon. Oh, and Barbara asked me to tell you when we get back, we'll need your help with the house expenses. Now's the time to prove how much you love me." "Daniel," my voice trembled, "I already spent everything on your wedding." He sighed in irritation. "Don't be so dramatic, Mom. I know you've got more saved. You've always been thrifty." Then he hung up. I sat frozen, the phone still in my hand. Right after the wedding, after humiliating me in front of everyone, he was already asking for more money. When I said I had nothing left, he hung up on me. In that moment, something inside me awakened. For 70 years I had lived swallowing tears, putting others above myself. I had endured disdain and insults, thinking it was simply my duty. But enough was enough. Daniel never saw me as his mother, only as an ATM. Barbara never respected me, she saw me as an obstacle. Monica never once thanked me for raising her son. She only wanted to erase me from his life, and I knew it was time for everything to change. I felt like I was treated as a burden of the past. I walked to my room and opened the wooden drawer. At the very bottom lay an envelope I hadn't touched in years. Inside were documents Daniel had never seen, papers that proved something he would never expect. My hands trembled as I pulled them out one by one. Deposit certificates, property deeds, insurance contracts. It was the inheritance from my father, a man who had worked tirelessly in a factory and invested every dollar wisely. Daniel thought I was just an old adoptive mother scraping by on a tiny pension. He had no idea I held assets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, with accounts spread across 3 banks. He never suspected that the woman he publicly shamed was wealthier than his own mother-in-law, Monica. For the first time in months, I smiled. Daniel wanted his real mother, Barbara wanted to bleed me dry, Monica wanted to erase me. Soon enough, they would all see how wrong they were. I picked up the phone and dialed an old contact. "Johnson Law Office, how can I help you?" A professional voice answered. "This is Angela Miller. I need to speak urgently with Attorney David about a family inheritance matter." 3 days later, I was sitting in David's elegant office, the lawyer in his 50s, who had helped me when my father passed. "Miss Angela, it's been a long time." He shook my hand. "How can I help you?" I sat across from the polished wooden desk, took a deep breath, and said, "I want you to review all my assets, properties, bank accounts, investments, everything I inherited from my father and accumulated over the years." David opened a thick folder. "Of course. I remember your father was a very wise man. Let me take a look." As he read, I recalled how my father used to buy cheap land on the outskirts, always saying, "One day this will be gold." He was right. Today, those plots sat in the middle of a booming financial district. "Impressive," David murmured. "You currently own 4 commercial buildings, 2 luxury rental apartments, and investments with a total value of—" He paused, peering at me over his glasses. $800,000. I already knew the figure, but hearing it aloud still tightened my chest. Daniel had humiliated me over $19,000 for his wedding, while I quietly held nearly $1 million he knew nothing about. I lifted my head and declared firmly, "I want to change my will." For 2 hours we went over every detail. I instructed him. "Remove Daniel from the loft. Inheritance. Instead, I want to create a foundation to support single mothers who adopt children." David raised his eyebrows. "Are you certain?" "This is a very big decision. I am absolutely certain," I replied coldly. "My son made it clear at his wedding that I wasn't his real mother. If that's the case, he has no right to inherit from a stranger." David nodded and kept writing. I also asked him to draft an official letter informing Daniel of my decision. When I left the office, I felt lighter than ever. I had reclaimed my dignity, and this was only the beginning. Daniel, Barbara, and Monica had completely underestimated me. They thought I was just a weak old woman, easy to push aside. Soon, they would realize how mistaken they were. That afternoon, I visited one of my buildings, a downtown high-rise. The manager, Mr. Elias, looked stunned to see me. "Miss Angela, what an honor. What can I do for you?" I told him I wanted to see the penthouse that had been vacant for months. When I stepped inside, I almost lost my breath. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a sleek, modern kitchen straight out of a magazine. "Mr. Elias, cancel the listing. I'll be moving in." His eyes widened. "That unit rents for $3,000 a month. Your current apartment costs just a fraction of that." I smiled. "I've made up my mind. Prepare the contract." That very evening, I hired a premium moving service to transfer all my belongings the next morning. I also brought in an interior design team to decorate. The costs were more than several months of my old living expenses, but I no longer cared. The next day, as my things were being moved, Daniel called, just back from his honeymoon. "Mom, where are you?" "I went to your old apartment and saw moving trucks." "I moved, Daniel," I answered calmly. "Moved where? Why didn't you tell me?" I could hear Barbara's voice faintly in the background. I didn't feel the need to. After all, you made it clear at your wedding that I'm not your real mother." The silence was heavy. "Don't be so dramatic, Mom. I still love you. It's just, Monica is like a second mother to me. I knew exactly what he meant. In his eyes, I was replaceable. I said firmly, "If you need to reach me, contact Attorney David. He has all my updated information." "A lawyer?" "Mom, what's going on? You're worrying me." "I'm just putting my affairs in order. At 70, it's the wise thing to do." I hung up before he could reply. That evening, I officially moved into the new penthouse. Standing on the 25th floor balcony, looking at the city lights below, I poured myself a glass of French wine. For the first time in decades, I felt truly in control of my life. No more waiting for Daniel's scraps of affection. No more enduring Barbara's insults. No more being invisible to Monica. 3 days later, my phone rang. The voice on the other end had lost its sweet disguise. "Miss Angela, this is Monica, Barbara's mother. I need to speak with you urgently." I smiled, knowing the fun had begun. "Of course, Mrs. Monica. How can I help you?" "Daniel told me you moved and hired a lawyer. Barbara is very worried. What's happening?" The worry in her tone was exactly what I had been waiting for. I replied evenly, "Nothing serious. I just decided to make a few changes. At 70, I realized life is too short to waste on people who don't value me." Silence filled the line. Then Monica asked, "Can we meet? Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." I laughed softly. "A misunderstanding? How convenient. When they humiliated me at the wedding, no one said it was a misunderstanding. When Daniel demanded more money the very next day, there was no mistake. But now, when I slipped out of their control, suddenly it was all a misunderstanding." "Fine," I answered, "but you'll have to. Come to my new apartment. I don't go out much anymore." I gave her the address, the solarium, the most luxurious building in the city. I knew Monica would understand immediately what she was about to face. 2 hours later, Monica showed up with Barbara and Daniel. All three looked tense as security announced their names. I let them up. When the elevator doors opened on the 25th floor, their stunned faces were my first victory. "My God," Barbara gasped, her eyes wide as she scanned the apartment. "How can you afford this place?" Daniel wandered around, touching everything as if he couldn't believe it. Monica tried to stay calm, but I saw the unease in her eyes. "Please, sit down." I gestured toward the Italian leather sofa. "Would you like something to drink? I have French wine, Scotch whiskey, champagne." Monica politely declined, but Daniel couldn't hold back and asked right away, "Mom, where did all this money come from?" This was the question I had been waiting for. I sat back comfortably, crossed my legs, and smiled. "Son, there are many things about your adoptive mother that you never cared to know." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Monica and Barbara exchanged worried glances. They couldn't yet fathom how a plain retiree could live so luxuriously. I continued slowly, savoring every second. "The truth is, my parents, your adoptive grandparents, left me a great deal of property. They were very wise investors." Daniel's jaw dropped. "You never told me this," I replied gently. "You never asked, Daniel. For 45 years you only cared about what I could give you in the moment. You never once asked where I came from or what my story was." The weight of the truth filled the room. Barbara fidgeted, and Monica tried to keep her voice steady. "Angela, I understand you're upset over a few words at the wedding, but Daniel loves you very much. He just wanted to thank our family." "A few words," I cut her off, letting the phrase hang like a knife in the air. Daniel stood before more than 200 guests and publicly declared that Monica was his real mother. "That wasn't a slip of the tongue, Mrs. Monica. That was a statement." Daniel's face went pale. "Mom, I didn't mean what, Daniel? I snapped. Didn't mean to hurt me? Didn't mean to humiliate me? Didn't mean to erase 45 years of motherhood in a single sentence? The room fell silent. Barbara twisted her wedding ring, Monica forced a strained smile, and Daniel looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Finally he stammered, "Mom, if I hurt you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I was just nervous." "Nervous?" I cut him off again. "When you were 5 years old and cried every night, I held you to comfort you. When I worked 2 jobs to pay your private school tuition, my only intention was to give you the best opportunities. When I emptied my savings for your wedding, my only goal was to see you happy." I turned toward the window. "But the day after your wedding, when you called asking for more money, what was your intention then, Daniel? When Barbara said, 'A woman your age doesn't need that much money,' what was her intention?" Barbara's face turned red. "I never said that." I slowly turned back. "I remember perfectly. Your exact words were, 'A woman at your age doesn't need too much money. Consider it an investment in your son's future.'" The tension was suffocating. Monica quickly stepped in. "Miss Angela, I think we're exaggerating. We're family, and we should support one another." I smiled coldly. "Family?" "Daniel made it very clear that his real family is you, Mrs. Monica. I'm just the woman who raised him." Daniel shot to his feet. "That's enough. This is ridiculous. You're acting like a spoiled child." His words cracked through the room like a gunshot. Monica scowled. "Daniel, don't you dare speak to your mother like that." I replied calmly. "There it is. That's the real Daniel, the one who surfaces whenever things don't go his way." I opened my bag, pulled out a folder, and laid it on the table. "Since we're being honest, let me show you something." Inside were photos of my properties. This is the office building where I live. Here's the luxury apartment complex and the shopping center downtown. Barbara choked, and Monica stared at the documents as if they'd fallen from another planet. I went on. "I also have other investments. My total assets are currently valued at $840,000. Barbara collapsed back into her seat. Daniel rushed to steady her, and Monica's hands trembled as she fanned herself with a magazine. Daniel whispered, "$840,000? Then he snapped, "You had all that money and still let me drain my savings for medical bills last year?" I looked at him gently. "During that so-called emergency, did you once ask how I was doing? Did you care about my well-being? Or were you only worried about getting money?" Barbara muttered, "If you had so much money, why live like you were poor? Why let us pay for things?" "I never pretended to be poor," I replied. "I simply lived on my pension and kept my assets private. You were the ones who assumed that because I was a retired adoptive mother, I must be poor. That was your judgment, not the truth." Daniel raked his hands through his hair, his voice shaking. "Mom, this changes everything. We could have done so much." "Done what, Daniel?" I locked eyes with him. "Be a real family? Or just spend my money the way you wanted?" He fell silent. Monica jumped in, her voice tinged with pleading. "Miss Angela, now that we know the truth, we can start fresh as a united family." I gave a short, bitter laugh. "I'm afraid it's far too late." I pulled out another document. "This is my new will. Daniel has been removed from the inheritance. All of my assets will go to a charitable foundation for single mothers who adopt abandoned children." All three faces turned ashen. Daniel shouted, "Mom, you can't do this. I'm your son." I shook my head sadly. "No, Daniel. You declared before everyone that I wasn't your real mother. If that's true, then you're not truly my son." He froze for several seconds, then exploded. "This is insane. You can't disinherit me over one stupid sentence." "Just one sentence?" I said calmly. "Daniel, tell me, in all these decades, have you ever once called me just to ask how I was? Ever once visited me without asking for money? Ever once included me in your plans without me footing the bill?" He fell silent. Barbara sobbed, and Monica held her. "This is so unfair," Barbara choked. "My family has always loved Daniel." "Loved him?" I smiled bitterly. "When you told me I didn't need money, was that love? When you seated me at the back of the wedding I paid for, was that love? When Daniel publicly called someone else his mother, was that respect?" Monica dropped her sweetness. "Miss Angela, this is revenge. You can't punish Daniel for life over one mistake." "No," I replied firmly. "This is justice. Daniel chose to replace me with someone else. Now he lives with the consequences." I walked to the window, looking out at the glowing city. "According to Daniel, you're his real mother, Mrs. Monica. So you can take care of him instead of me." The air turned heavy. Daniel looked at Monica expectantly, but she lowered her head. Daniel broke into tears. "Mom, please forgive me. I was foolish. I only wanted to impress Barbara's family. I love you. You're my only mother. I found it fascinating. $840,000 could make someone suddenly remember their love. If you truly love me," I said, "then respect my decision. This isn't just about the wedding, it's about years of disrespect, years of begging, years of treating me like a burden." Barbara cried harder. "It's all my fault." I pushed Daniel to say that I just wanted my mother to feel special. I looked at her. "Thank you for admitting it, but that only proves you all conspired to humiliate me." Daniel stepped closer, trying to take my hand. "Mom, please. We can start over. Barbara and I will apologize. Whatever you want, we'll do it." I sighed. "The saddest part is that you had to learn about this money before remembering you loved me. Last week, when you thought I only had a tiny pension, you hung up the phone the moment I said I'd spent all my savings on your wedding." Monica quickly stood up. "Enough. This has gotten too emotional. I think everyone needs time to reflect." "You're right," I nodded, "especially because there's one more piece of news." I pulled out more documents. "I've bought an apartment in Barcelona. In 2 weeks, I'll be leaving America to live there." All 3 faces went pale. "No!" Daniel shouted. "This is your home. Your family is here." "No, Daniel," I answered steadily. "My home is where I am respected. My family is the people who value me, and clearly, that's not here." Barbara clutched Daniel's arm, crying out, "Say something. Please, ma'am, don't go. We'll do anything." I looked at the 3 of them and said slowly, "There's only one thing that could make me reconsider." They all held their breath, eyes fixed on me. "Daniel must publicly apologize. A video where you explain exactly what you did wrong at the wedding and post it on social media." Daniel's face turned ashen. "A public video? No way. My friends, my colleagues will see it. It would be humiliating." I smiled coldly. "Perfect. Now you finally understand how I felt that day." I turned toward the door and said firmly, "Then I believe there's nothing more to discuss. I'll show you out." Daniel panicked. "Mom, wait, give me more time to think." But my mind was made up. His reaction only confirmed what I needed to know. "Daniel," I said as I opened the door, "you've had 45 years to think about this relationship. You've had 3 years to learn how to treat me with respect. You've had 3 weeks since the wedding to offer a sincere apology. You don't need more time. You need to know what really matters." The three of them walked out in silence. From my apartment window, I watched Daniel, Barbara, and Monica climb into a taxi. Daniel glanced up at my home with desperate eyes. Barbara wept on her mother's shoulder. A pitiful sight, but I felt no pity. That night, I poured another glass of wine and sat on the balcony. The city stretched before me, glowing with thousands of lights. For the first time in decades, I felt truly free. No more begging for money, no more public humiliations, no more living for people who didn't value me. The phone rang nonstop. Daniel, Barbara, even Monica sent messages full of desperation. Apologies, promises to change, offers of family therapy. I ignored them all. They had their chance to be a real family, and they wasted it. The next day, I got an unexpected call. It was Javier, an old friend from the textile factory where I once worked. "Angela, I saw your son at the mall yesterday. He looked awful. Is everything okay?" I smiled. News did travel fast. "Everything's fine, Javier. At last, everything is where it should be." In the days that followed, Daniel grew more frantic trying to reach me. Midnight calls, long text messages, even flowers delivered to my apartment. But it was all in vain. He had crossed a line that could never be undone. On the 4th day after our confrontation, I decided to go shopping, preparing for my move to Barcelona. I chose the most exclusive jewelry store in the city, a place where only the truly wealthy dared to buy. The saleswoman looked me over from head to toe, her eyes full of disdain at my simple clothes. "How can I help you?" she asked, voice dripping condescension. "I'd like to see some special pieces, perhaps diamond necklaces or sapphires." She led me to a small display case, showing me ordinary items. I smiled politely. "I meant the truly special pieces, the ones you keep for VIP clients." Her face shifted. "Those pieces are very expensive, ma'am. They start at $50,000. Her tone implied I couldn't possibly afford them. "Perfect," I replied. "Show me all of them." I placed my platinum credit card on the counter. The saleswoman's eyes widened. As I tried on a spectacular diamond necklace, I heard familiar voices near the entrance. Barbara and Monica. It seemed they were out shopping as well. "We can't let her go to Europe," Barbara whispered. "Daniel is falling apart. He hasn't eaten or slept in days." "Leave it to me," Monica answered firmly. "That woman just wants attention. I'll make her an offer she can't refuse." They walked up to the counter, not noticing me at first since I had my back turned. "Excuse me," Monica said to the saleswoman. "We need a very special gift for a family reconciliation." The saleswoman, now treating me like a VIP after seeing my platinum card, pointed toward the regular display. "You can take a look at those items." I slowly turned around. "Oh, Mrs. Monica, what a coincidence." Barbara gasped when she saw me wearing the diamond necklace glittering under the lights. Monica stammered, "Angela, you here?" The saleswoman looked puzzled. "You know each other?" "Oh, yes," I smiled. "We're family. At least that's what they think." Monica flushed, trying to regain composure. "Mrs. Angela, that necklace is truly beautiful. It must be very expensive. 65,000, I said casually. "But I like it so much, I think I'll take it." Barbara nearly collapsed. This was the same woman who once told me, "An older woman doesn't need that much money." Monica tried to recover. "Mrs. Angela, Marco is truly regretful. He hasn't eaten for days. He can't even work. Barbara is also suffering deeply." I shrugged, my eyes fixed on a pair of sapphire earrings. How unfortunate. But surely you, his real mother, will know how to comfort him. Barbara stepped closer, pleading. Please, he confessed everything to me. You sacrificed everything for him. I never knew. I looked her straight in the eye. 3 weeks ago, at the wedding when you all humiliated me, where were these tears? The next day, when Daniel called asking for more money, where was this understanding? Barbara went silent. Monica cut in. We were wrong. Let us make it up to you. We'll buy you anything here, as an apology. I let out a bitter laugh. How generous. But I've already chosen. I pointed to the diamond necklace. In fact, I'll also take these earrings and this bracelet, altogether about $100,000. Barbara slumped into a chair. Monica tried to keep a stern face, but her hand trembled slightly. The swipe of my card echoed through the tense air. Finally, Monica forced a smile. Clearly, you have far greater means than we ever knew. Perhaps we could work together in some business, build a true family alliance. I slipped the jewelry boxes into my bag. When you thought I was poor, you treated me like garbage. Now that you know I have money, suddenly you want to partner with me. Don't you see how ridiculous that is? Barbara shot up, eyes brimming with tears. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but Daniel is different. He really loves you. He's even considering making that public apology video. That caught my attention. Really? And what's stopping him? His pride, Barbara admitted. He's afraid his friends and colleagues will mock him. I told him, if he truly loves you, he has to swallow his pride. For the first time, Barbara said something sensible. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. When Daniel decides what matters more, his love for his mother or his public image, he knows where to find me. I left Monica and Barbara frozen in the store while I walked away with a relaxed smile. That afternoon, as I admired my new jewelry in the apartment, I thought about the encounter. Their shock at my spending proved one thing. They had never truly seen me. In their eyes, I was only a poor mother in need of charity. The phone rang. It was Daniel. This time, I answered. Hello, Mom. His voice was hoarse, exhausted. Barbara told me you saw them at the jewelry store. Did you really buy all that? I never knew you had so much money. I replied evenly. There's a lot about me you never knew, simply because you never cared to ask. On the other end, only heavy breathing. Mom, I'm thinking about making the video. But I need to know, if I do it, will you really forgive me? Even in his apology, Daniel wanted a guarantee in return. Daniel, I said slowly, a true apology never comes with conditions. Either you feel genuine remorse, or you don't. The choice is yours. He stayed silent, then hung up. 2 days later, Barbara sent a message. Daniel was thinking hard about it. Monica kept calling, but I didn't answer. I had already said all I needed to say. By the 3rd day, my phone buzzed nonstop. Daniel had posted the video online. My hands shook as I opened it. My son's face filled the screen. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. His voice broke. Hello, everyone. I need to say something important. 3 weeks ago, at my wedding, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I stood before everyone and thanked my real mother, my mother-in-law. But the truth is, my only mother is Mrs. Angela Miller. My chest tightened as I heard him choke out the confession. She adopted me when I was 5, after my biological parents died. For 45 years, she gave me everything: her love, her time, her money, her dreams. She worked 2 jobs so I could attend private school. She gave up the chance for her own family to raise me. Tears rolled down his cheeks. She spent her entire life savings, $19,000, on my wedding, and I repaid her with public humiliation. I disrespected her, let my wife insult her, let my mother-in-law replace her. I am an ungrateful son. I don't deserve the love of that extraordinary woman. The screen blurred through his tears. My whole body trembled, but this time not from pain, from knowing I had reclaimed the truth, not just for myself, but for the world to see. Daniel's video went on for over 5 minutes, confessing every mistake, every slight against me. He admitted he had known about being adopted for years, but never once thanked me for saving his life. Mother Angela removed me from her will, Daniel said in the video, and she has every right to do so. I destroyed our relationship out of vanity, just to impress people who weren't worth it. If she chooses to move to Europe and never see me again, I understand. Because I was the one who broke the heart of the only person who loved me unconditionally. At the end of the video, Daniel looked straight into the camera, voice breaking. "Mom, if you're watching this, I want you to know I regret every second I made you suffer. I don't expect your forgiveness. I only hope you find the happiness you deserve, with or without me in your life." The screen went black. My tears fell as I read the comments pouring in. Hundreds of people wrote, "He's so ungrateful. That woman deserves a better son. I hope she never forgives him." The video was going viral. The phone rang. It was Javier, my old friend from the textile factory. "Angela, I just saw Daniel's video. The whole city is talking. Are you okay?" I answered softly, "I'm fine, Javier. In fact, better than I ever imagined. The boy looks completely broken, but what he did at the wedding is unforgivable. Are you really moving to Europe?" I glanced around the apartment at the packed boxes and the plane ticket already booked. "Yes, Javier, it's time I live for myself." In the hours that followed, I got calls from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old co-workers, neighbors, even a few distant relatives, all expressed support and outrage at the way Daniel had treated me. One afternoon, Barbara showed up at my door, eyes swollen from crying. "Mrs. Angela, please open up. I know you're in there." I opened the door out of curiosity. Barbara stepped in, her voice trembling. "Daniel hasn't stopped crying since he posted the video. He's getting hundreds of hateful messages, losing clients. Colleagues are avoiding him." I looked at her and replied coldly, "And what does that have to do with me?" Barbara collapsed into a chair. "He did what you asked. He humbled himself publicly." "Not enough," I said firmly. "One video can't erase 45 years of ingratitude, can't erase the humiliation at that wedding, can't heal the wounds you all inflicted." Barbara tried to explain, then lowered her voice. "I was wrong. I was too young, too foolish. I let my mother influence me, made me think wrongly about you. Now I see you're an extraordinary, strong woman." I cut her off. 3 weeks ago, you said a woman like me didn't need much money. You sat me at the last table at the wedding I paid for. You let your husband humiliate me in front of 200 guests. Where was your respect then?" Barbara bowed her head in silence. I continued, "And where's Daniel? Why didn't he come himself to apologize?" "He's ashamed, too afraid to face you," Barbara admitted. That only confirmed my thoughts. Daniel was still a coward. "Angela, please," Barbara begged, "give us another chance. We want to start over, to become a real family. Even my mother admits she was wrong." I laughed. "Now Monica admits she was wrong. How convenient." Barbara nearly screamed. "Then what do we have to do? What do you want for forgiveness?" I pointed to the door. "Some things can't be bought. Some wounds can't be healed. Family only exists when there's respect, not desperate begging after finding out about a will. Barbara burst into tears and left. I saw her climb into a taxi, frantically calling Daniel, telling him their plan had failed again. That night, I got a text from Daniel. "Mom, I've started therapy. I'll try to change. I love you." I deleted the message without replying. I knew it wasn't love, only fear of losing money. The day of my flight to Barcelona drew near. Daniel's video had reached over 1 million views, and I had become a symbol for mothers mistreated by their children. News outlets covered it, and many women shared their own stories. At last, after decades, I had found my voice again. The day before departure, Monica called, her voice nervous. "Angela, I need to talk about business. The video hurt my company. We lost major clients. Could you make a statement that you hold no resentment?" I laughed bitterly. "You once arranged for me to be humiliated. Now you reap the consequences. Handle it yourself." Then I hung up. That night, Daniel and Barbara came to my door. They begged, cried, even threatened. I answered briefly. "Daniel, you had 45 years to prove family mattered. Now it's too late." The next morning the sky was clear. I stood by the window, looking at the city one last time. After 70 years of life, 45 years of devotion to an ungrateful child, I was finally ready to live for myself. Attorney Raoul arrived with the final documents. "Everything is ready, Mrs. Angela. The charity fund for single mothers adopting children has been established. Your assets are under professional management." "The new will is fully legal and unchangeable," he asked. "Do you ever think you'll forgive Daniel if he truly regrets it?" I gave a sad smile. "No, Raoul. He only regrets the consequences. He'll never regret his actions, and that's why I boarded the plane, carrying the freedom and peace I had waited my whole life for. If I were truly poor, do you think I'd have the money for therapy and a viral video?" My flight departed at 6 p.m. At 3 p.m., as I waited for a taxi to the airport, the phone rang one last time. It was Daniel. This time I decided to answer not out of pity, but to close this chapter forever. "Hello, Daniel," I said softly. His breathing was heavy, uneven. "Mom," he whispered. "I know it's too late, but I need to say this before you leave." I stayed silent, listening. "Last night I looked through childhood photos. You were in all of them. Every birthday, every graduation, every important moment, you were always there, always smiling, always proud of me. Beautiful words, but far too late." "Daniel," I replied gently, "those photos were always there. My sacrifices were always there. My love was unconditional. You didn't need to lose an inheritance to realize that." Silence lingered. Then he asked, voice breaking, "Is there any way I can earn your forgiveness?" I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of 45 years of motherhood. "Daniel, forgiveness isn't something to earn, it's something to deserve. It's built day by day, year by year, with respect and gratitude. You chose the opposite path." "So, it's truly over? Is this your final decision?" He stammered. "Daniel," I said firmly, "this isn't a decision, it's a consequence. The natural result of choices you've made for years." I ended the call and turned off my phone. The taxi arrived on time. I wheeled out my small suitcase with only the essentials and stepped onto the street. For the first time in my life, I felt like a butterfly breaking free from its cocoon. 70 years to learn that loving yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. The airport was crowded with farewells, families hugging tightly, couples crying, children clinging to their parents. I walked alone, yet not lonely. I felt free. Free from expectations never met, from love never valued, from sacrifices never acknowledged. Sitting in the departure lounge, I thought about all the women I'd met, mothers who gave their lives for their children, only to be forgotten or mistreated in old age. My story went viral not because it was rare, but because it was all too common. Flight 87 to Barcelona is now boarding. A woman's voice echoed through the speakers. I stood up, adjusted my bag, and walked away without looking back even once. 6 months later, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment in Barcelona, watching the sunset over the Mediterranean. My new life surpassed anything I had ever dreamed of. I had found peace, purpose, and for the first time in decades, genuine happiness, a happiness no longer dependent on anyone's approval. My apartment in the old quarter was perfect. 3 bedrooms overlooking the sea, every piece of furniture chosen by me, filled with greenery I cared for myself. Neighbors called me simply Angela. No one knew I was Daniel's adoptive mother. Here, I was just an independent woman living the best years of her life. I built a new rhythm: painting classes on Tuesdays, volunteering at the Single Mothers Center on Thursdays, Saturday dinners with new friends. For the first time in my adult life, my time belonged entirely to me. No more waiting for calls that never came, no more plans canceled by someone else's selfishness. The charity I had created from my inheritance was thriving. The Brave Mothers program had already helped 50 women adopt abandoned children. Seeing their grateful eyes filled me with more fulfillment than all the years of unrecognized motherhood. My Spanish phone rarely rang with trouble. I had changed my number, deleted social media, and cut all ties with the past. Attorney Robert still sent monthly reports about my assets, but only mentioned Daniel when absolutely necessary. One November afternoon, I received an email from Javier, an old friend from the factory. "Angela, I hope you're doing well in Barcelona. I thought you should know. Daniel got divorced. Barbara left him 3 months ago. He also lost his job because of the video scandal. Now he's living with his mother-in-law, Monica." I wasn't surprised. Barbara's true nature had shown the moment she thought I was poor. Once Daniel lost status and money, her leaving was inevitable. Javier added, "Daniel is in therapy. His doctor says he's confronting issues of abandonment and gratitude." I deleted the email without replying. Divorce, unemployment, therapy, none of that was my burden anymore. For 45 years, I had carried Daniel's problems as if they were mine. Now he would have to navigate life without my emotional and financial safety net. In December, Robert called with news. "Mrs. Angela, Daniel is suing to overturn the will. He hired a lawyer, claiming you weren't of sound mind when you signed the documents." I laughed. "Does he have any chance of winning?" "None," Robert said firmly. "We have video of you signing in front of witnesses, psychological evaluations proving your clarity, and especially the video of him admitting his mistreatment of you." "Perfect," I replied. "Let him waste money on useless lawyers. It will be another lesson." In January, I received a letter from Daniel through the consulate. Shaky handwriting on cheap paper read, "Mom, I know I have no right to write to you, but I finally understand everything you did for me. Therapy has opened my eyes. I don't expect forgiveness, only that you know your love wasn't wasted. I'm trying to become the man you deserved as a son." I read it once and put it away. Those beautiful words could have been said decades ago, but he chose not to. Late realizations are his responsibility, not my victory. In March, I celebrated my 71st birthday at a dinner table with new friends. Carmen, a cheerful widow in her 60s, raised her glass. To Angela, the bravest woman we know, who dares to live for herself and reject toxic love. Isabel, a retired artist, added, "To you for proving it's never too late to reclaim your dignity." Their words moved me more than any birthday wish Daniel had ever given me in decades. That night, in the quiet of my apartment, I cried not from sadness but from relief. 70 years, and I finally understood one crucial truth. Love that makes you smaller isn't love, it's manipulation. Family that only seeks you out when they need something isn't family, it's exploitation. I took out a photo of Daniel at 10 years old, grinning in my arms after I taught him to ride a bike. I whispered, "I loved you with all my heart, but love doesn't mean allowing mistreatment. I hope you find peace, just as I have." I placed the photo back in the drawer with his letter. The past of a sacrificial mother had ended. The future of a whole woman had begun. At 71, I finally learned the greatest lesson of my life. It's never too late to choose yourself. The sound of Mediterranean waves crashing against the shore drifted in from the balcony. I smiled, thinking, life is like the sea, the tides rise and fall, storms come and go, but the ocean remains. And I too would remain, but on my own terms. My phone buzzed. The charity reported that a single mother who had adopted twins needed support. I typed a reply with quiet joy. That woman would receive all the help and recognition I had once lacked. Their gratitude would not fill the void Daniel left, but it would build something new and beautiful. I closed my phone and looked toward the horizon. Barcelona had given me something I never thought possible at this age, a new beginning. I didn't regret adopting Daniel. I only regretted not realizing sooner that kindness should never come at the cost of self-destruction. The Mediterranean breeze rustled the curtains as I prepared for bed. Tomorrow would be another day full of possibilities I was free to choose. And for the first time in 71 years, the future belonged entirely to me, and that alone was enough. Sometimes in life it takes many years to realize a simple truth. Real love is never tied to belittlement or endless demands. A mother may sacrifice her whole life for her child, but without gratitude, those sacrifices only turn into wounds. This story isn't just about an ungrateful son or a mother's suffering. It reflects the reality many families face, how thin the line is between unconditional love and exploitation. The lesson here is love must go hand in hand with respect, and forgiveness doesn't always mean accepting more pain. And what about you? What do you think about the boundary between sacrifice and self-destruction in family love? Share your thoughts below. Your story might give someone out there the strength to cherish themselves more. And if you want to continue this journey with me, listening, reflecting, and learning from real-life stories, follow along so you won't miss the meaningful things waiting ahead.